April 5th, 1985, Ocala, Florida. There's a knock at my door. It's my next door neighbor, Dale. Dale has the day off and says, "Can I go flying?" Sure. So we head to the airport, we open up the hangar door, and we roll out this beautiful high-performance experimental aircraft that my father and I had built 2 years prior. Now, this isn't a normal kind of airplane where you sit side by side. You sit one in front of the other in a reclined position, the engine's in the back, and you communicate via headphones with a boom mic. So off we go. I decide we're going to go west to the Gulf and fly up and down the coast a little bit, then fly out over the Gulf of Mexico, look for boats out there. And now we've been flying for about 40 minutes, and I decide I'm going to give Dale a thrill. Now, when you're at altitude, you can't tell how fast you're going. You can be at 30,000 feet in a commercial jet plane, doing 500 miles an hour, and when you look out the window, it just doesn't look like you're going that fast. So I tell Dale we're going to drop down to 10 feet over the water. We're 3 miles from shore, and we're going to come in at 200 miles an hour, and you're going to really feel what speed is like. We're both 28 years old, no fear. Dale goes, let's do it. Drop down to 10 feet off the water, 200 miles an hour, and we are moving. And it seems like we're doing 400. I tell Dale the only thing we have to really worry about at this altitude are birds. Seagulls and pelicans we'll never see in time. They just come up so quick. So here we go. Now we're about 2 miles from the coastline, and I notice that there's 2 islands that are pretty close together. And it's probably maybe 80 feet between them, and I'm going to go right between these 2. Halfway through, there's a mild buffeting in the airplane, and I happen to look to the left, and I notice that part of my wing is gone. Now, the first thing that goes through my mind is my dad's going to kill me. I've wrecked the airplane. Pull back on the stick, climb to 1,000 feet, and that's when I realize we are in big trouble. The engine is screaming now, the plane is shaking, and it's all I can do to control it to keep it level. It wants to fall off. It's coming down on its own, and there's not much I can do. So I do what I was taught. I radio a mayday to the closest airport. No one answers. I do it a couple times. No one answers. On the 3rd time, Dale comes in on the headphones yelling, "I can't understand what you're saying." I tell Dale, "Shut up, put your seatbelt on as tight as you can." Dale never makes another sound after that. One more try, and then I realized no one's going to hear us. My transmitting antenna was in that part of the wing that's no longer with the plane. Got to fly the plane now. Okay, doesn't look like we're going to make shore. I'm thinking we're going to hit the water. This is when it occurs to me, this is the day I might die. And what's strange about it is that I know that we're probably going to be in the air another 2 to 3 minutes, and as long as we're in the air, I'm alive, but the moment we hit the ground, I could be dead. It's not like going through an intersection and being T-boned by a car, and it happens like that. So I have time to think about this. Now I'm thinking we're going to land in the water, and I'm picturing the plane's probably going to cartwheel or go upside down. I'm going to have to open the canopy, try to get out, try to get my passenger out. Are we going to be injured? Are we going to even be able to swim? These things are going through my mind. All of a sudden, it looks like, hey, I might be able to make it to the shoreline. But then there's another problem. All along the shore in this area, it's solid woods. Now I'm picturing we're going to crash into the trees. And this is going through my mind. I'm picturing compound fractures, bones sticking out, dying up in these trees. No one knows where we are. No one even knows that we're out flying. Again, am I going to live today, or are we going to die the moment we hit the ground? About this time, I happened to look to the right, and I couldn't believe it. About a mile over here was the Crystal River Nuclear Power Plant. And I could see from where we were, there was a clearing in the back. This is great. I was able to get the plane to slowly turn into that direction, and it looks like we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And even better than that, I can see a dump truck in the back of this field driving because he's kicking up dust. Perfect. We're going to crash. This guy's going to see us, and he's going to be able to help us. Now, what we didn't know at the time is when we went through those 2 islands, we flew through 2 steel cables that they had stretched across the water. These cables were about an inch thick. The bottom cable went underneath the airplane, grabbed part of the landing gear, ripped it out of the plane. It took some of the propeller. The top wire hit our canopy, went over, almost decapitated us, hit part of the wing, and took it off. Of course, we didn't know this. I just knew that part of the wing wasn't there. Now, we're coming towards it, and it looks like I'm going to be able to make this property. And as we're getting closer and closer, it's like, oh, no. What's all around a nuclear power plant? Power lines everywhere. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go through these, and here we go, death again. Luckily, we just cleared the power lines, and we hit the ground, and we hit it hard. And we're not talking about a landing where you come in like this. We're almost coming straight down. We hit the ground. The plane only goes about 70 feet, turns around once, and stops. The dust settles. I open the canopy, and the dump truck has now just gone around the corner and disappeared. No one saw us crash. I look up, and Dale is already out of the plane, looking down at me, going, "Are you all right?" I notice that his jeans are ripped and his knee is bleeding. I tell him, "I think I broke my back. That's how hard we hit." He says he's going to go get help. So Dale runs off in the direction of the dump truck, disappears around the corner too. He comes up behind security at the power plant. They're like, "Where did you come from?" They're expecting people to come through the front. He goes, "We just crashed an airplane on your property." Now I'm still sitting in the plane, and I happen to look down, and we'd hit so hard that the nose gear collapsed, and the tire was sitting between my legs. Talk about lucky. Well, about 15 minutes later, helicopters are landing, sheriffs are there, the police, ambulances, even local newspapers are there. This is a big deal. Plane crashes at the nuclear power plant. I get out of the plane, my back isn't broken. I look at the plane, I look at the damage, and I think again, my dad's going to kill me. They take us to the hospital, check us out. Nothing's broken, we're just bruised. That night in our town, everyone had heard about the plane crash. So all our buddies took us out. They were feeding us drinks all night long. Our adrenaline was flowing. We're telling our story. We're like local heroes. 2 days later, both Dale and I started getting nauseous, cramps in our stomach. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Delayed shock. We had 2 days to think about everything that happened and how lucky we were. Months later, I continued flying, moved to Austin, Texas. 37 years later, I'll get a call from Dale, maybe every 2 or 3 years, to kind of wish us a happy anniversary on that date. To this day, Dale has never flown in an airplane again. He says, "I've been in a high-performance airplane. I've gone through power lines, doing 200 miles an hour, 10 feet off the water. I've crashed and I've survived. What else do I need to do?" Oh, and by the way, April 5th, 1985 was Good Friday. So I ask you, who wants to go flying? Thank you.